The sports that rely on betting, that's what the sport is built on, you're in trouble. It's about the result now mattering to me. I'm now engaged, I'm now connected. I now really want to watch this and see how it turns out. There is a brilliance to betting. There's sides to it that need management, but there is a brilliance to it. If I had either a prediction game or betting, the way I would market that is make your experience today 10 times better. The addiction of prediction. Humans love to get invested in a future outcome that has some uncertainty about it. Social license is, kind of the buzzword in the sport right now. I'd be much more worried about the threat of social silence. When you make it matter to me, delighted when somebody wins and kind of quietly relieved when somebody else loses, now I am fully emotionally invested.
A huge element of mainstream sports now is being driven by betting markets. It gives you narrative, it gives you a way in. And I think sometimes that's overplayed insofar as what a betting market gives you is a conversation starter, because it gives you a favourite and it gives you an outsider. And then sometimes when they do secondary markets like first goal scorers and when they do, first person to knock a fence or any of these, it's giving you ways into a sport. It's giving you conversation starters. And for that reason, the importance of betting as a concept comes up again and again and again. We know that it operates in pockets of show jumping. We know that we've seen it in small pieces in eventing or in dressage in different places, but ultimately we're not, or we haven't been, sports which have embraced betting. Let's start with why that hasn't happened to date, or why you believe it hasn't happened to date.
Oh, I think why it hasn't happened is because people don't have enough information to have an opinion. Not enough people. So definitely there's definitely many people, thousands of people connected to equestrian sports that would love to see the facility to have a bet because it's fun. It's the bet, and I'd be one of those, to be honest. I think having it there as an option would be really beneficial. Because it's fun, it's the best value €10 that you'll spend. You still have an expected return on that. Like, of course, the bookies are going to take their, they've got their advantage built into it. They make hundreds of millions and billions every year for a reason. And I think there's a stigma attached to it as well, because some companies get super wealthy off it, and then some lives can be really negatively impacted from it. There's a negative side to it. Like, we have to be honest that both of those things are there. Those companies will put back into the sport. They will sponsor classes. They will bring the sport to new places and new levels. And then the future of betting, though, is going to manage the negative side much better. We're seeing it in the UK. The sports that rely on betting. So if betting is your thing, that's what the sport is built on, you're in trouble. Because as a society, as a race, we're getting so much more aware of what's good for us and what's not good for us. We're eating better, we're exercising more, we are intelligent creatures. And when someone explains something to us and explains it in a clear way, saying, it's not good for you if you only earn 300 quid a week and you're spending 150 betting on anything you can that you're not very informed about, you're just doing it for the buzz, that's not good for you. And so that side of it is going to be under control. But I'd love it to be there. So on the positive side, we'll get into the positive sides more, because it's about the result now mattering to me. I'm now engaged, I'm now connected, I now really want to watch this and see how it turns out. I'm now going to feel something.
For a small price. This is the value that you're talking about.
For a small price, yeah, for whatever I can afford. You know what I mean? If for me it might be €10, for someone else it might be 100 quid, but they're probably, it's the same difference, relatively speaking. What I want this conversation to be about, there's a grey area. There is a brilliance to betting. There is a brilliance to betting. There's sides to it that need management, but there is a brilliance to it. I also want to bring that same brilliance, that dopamine hit, to a younger audience too. That's where my passion is right now for me personally, because I've got kids. And I can see, and it is about dopamine, it's about excitement, it's about, we call it the addiction of prediction. You get excited the minute you say, you know, if you tell everyone that, you know, I think so and so is going to win the election, you know, money resting on it, you've just expressed an opinion, and you're now, and what's going through your head is, if this goes my way, if this is what I said, I might not say it, I might be humble enough not to say it, but I'm going to be feeling pretty good next time I see those people that I said X was going to happen. The addiction of prediction. Humans love to get invested in a future outcome that has some uncertainty about it. And sport is the perfect example of that, because of the uncertainty, because of the great and exciting way in which it unfolds, because sport is exciting, particularly equestrian sports. But now we're emotionally invested in the outcome. It's a game changer. If I had either a prediction game or betting, the way I would market that is make your experience today 10 times better. Because that's what it'll do. You'll sit there in an audience. If you try and watch 40 people jump in a Grand Prix, you can appreciate, okay, they're jumping very big fences, but 40 people are jumping the exact same 40 big fence, or, you know, 12 big fences. And it's kind of on loop, and it is hard to keep watching over and over again if you don't have something, if it doesn't mean something to you personally. And that's what we can do.
We have so much depth on those 40 riders. We know going in, because of some of the products that we have, we know the last 6 or 7 runs, we know what level they've been at, we know a lot of the backstories of the riders. We can appreciate just the spectacle that we talk about, and that the difficulty of what they're trying to achieve. Jumping at 160 level just on its own is an incredible achievement. So you can watch it and you can appreciate it at that level. But inevitably, at almost every single competition that we've watched, on site or online, if we're together watching a competition, we will, within minutes, have had to invent some form of win between us. And it changes all the time, whether it's betting on who's going to be clear, whether it's, as you say, just predicting who's going to be clear. Every competition that you're beside me on, you'll say, back part of an oxer coming, he'll struggle with 7, this will be, you can't help it, you just need to tell me, he'll jump the back part of the oxer, fine, potentially, and you'll adapt and you'll say, well, I did that better than I thought he was going to. But it's about these little moments of trying to get in. Like, how many games have we had over the years of clear, not clear, prediction, like fantasy teams? Is there a game element that's part of the kind of human condition when we watch this? Or is it, you know, this idea of, actually, if I am going to watch 40 horses, because jump offs kind of speak for themselves, if I am going to watch the excitement of a jump off, I think naturally comes from the sport, in that I don't feel the need to predict the jump off with you for it to feel more engaging. But I definitely, if I'm going to watch 40 horses, and I'm talking about the top competitions in the world, I'm talking about Aachen and Spruce and Setogenbosch and GCs, if I'm going to watch 40 of them back to back, you gotta give me some way in.
You touched on something really interesting there, which is where we've been at in sports on your journey through it. With, like, I've competed a lot in eventing, and I'm a much better show jumping fan than I am an eventing fan. As in, to the sport of show jumping, I'm far more useful, because I am at that real heightened point of, I understand it. It's I really want to be connected to it. Like, I think, because some people would answer your question saying, you know, why do you feel the need to gamify it? Why do you need to feel the need to have to predict who wins? Why can't you just appreciate the skill that's going on and just sit there and really appreciate the horsemanship and all that aspect of it? And that's kind of what, as I say, for someone who, when it's my job and things like that, and it's been my career, when I am watching eventing, I'm probably more looking at the nuances of it, looking at how people are riding and how horses are reading fences and reacting to fences. I'm probably more looking at the skill level, but I'm not as engaged. I don't watch as much eventing. If I'm not competing at the competition, I'm not tuning into that many, kind of because it's my job. Whereas when I'm like with jumping and I'm getting into it, I'm kind of getting to know it, getting to really understand and appreciate more who the competitors are, who the horses are, the upward trajectories, how like 9 and 10-year-olds bursting onto the scene, then winning championships and stuff like that. I'm so engaged. Like, I don't want to miss the next one. Like, because now I start having a fear that I might miss the next 9 or 10-year-old. Like, I need to watch the next 5-star. I want to watch weekend after weekend because I still want to be in touch with it. And I see that as a rider in eventing. I know that there are actually, I might be very well informed now when it comes to scoring systems and like, I mean, I do know a lot about the sport of eventing in terms of information, but in terms of studying the form and knowing the form, I know that there are fans who are more engaged with me. It's just a small number, you know, that it's almost like with experience in a sport and with time spent in a sport, there's a normal curve, you know, you're becoming more engaged. And then you actually start to become a bit less engaged because you've been watching it for decades and you really know it and you're watching it for different reasons. But the sport needs to really capture that new, young and emerging audience and help them to feel the excitement that we feel when we're there, because it's an incredible, all the equestrian sports with the chance at play and with the two athletes. It's incredibly fun to speculate on. It's brilliant.
And you're getting this constant opportunity to speculate, to keep coming. Horses and riders and new stories keep walking into the ring. Every couple of minutes, a new story comes in. This horse has never knocked a rail at 160. Like Killer Queen and Daniel Deusser in Aachen. You remember that story? I think it ended in maybe a jump off. Maybe it was non-jump offs. But I think up until last year, Killer Queen had never had a rail at Aachen. Now, all I need to know when that pair are walking into the arena, we're talking about different entry points of information, different levels of entry. Imagine a whole stadium just hearing you're about to watch a horse that's been here 7 times and has never knocked a rail at this venue. I'm in. You know, I'm going to watch this.
Well, we produced the form guide for Aachen last year for the Grand Prix. And we were there with Giggs, our COO, who's not long in the equestrian world. So we were picking a winner, as we do. And, you know, Charlotte was there as well, who probably has the most jumping knowledge out of all of us. Anyway, Giggs is the one who picks Stargold because he's flicking through the form guide, and Stargold is a sea of green. In our 8-run form bar, you can see the level 160, 155, 150. So the higher up they are, they're jumping at a higher level. And then, you know, green is clears, grey is single fault, black is multiple faults. And every horse in jumping has, you know, there's a bit of green, there's a bit of grey, there's a bit of black, varying levels. Sometimes they're at 150, 155, 160. Stargold was just a sea of green at top level. And like, it was that simple. Gates was looking through, he was like, that horse.
Yeah.
That horse wins. And actually, it can look that simple. I mean, was in the top 10 rated horses for sure. I think it was in the top 5 rated horses, but you know, Charlotte was all over the emerging Major Tom, you know, I think one of the highest rated 10-year-olds in the sport.
You had the Azure.
You were probably on Killer Queen.
No, I had the Azure story happening as well, where you had that kind of
the Grand Slam.
Obviously the Grand Slam attempt and the Satogenbosch winner, and I want to go back to dopamine for a moment, because all like what we were seeking out that weekend, and every weekend, if I'm honest, as you're watching sport, is you're seeking out these moments of whether it's prediction and being right or being wrong. Betting makes that easy. Betting's a very easy vehicle to get that dopamine. How else is it available to us, or is it available anywhere else?
Yeah, the fantasy sports have been a huge thing for me. Now there's a stage in your life, because we play a form of it in racing. We've our own little, with a few other friends, we have our own little fantasy game, but we still put a tenner on it, you know, or 50 quid on it, whatever it is for the season. because there's a stage in your life when you'd like that makes it matter a bit more to have a few quid riding on it. But now we're playing the fantasy game with the kids, and you get just as much of enjoyment and engagement out of it. And so then the leaderboards, but just who you realize that that what we're after is the connection with the sport, and then actually the connection with the other people that you know are also watching the sport with you. So your own community, or whether it's your family, your friends, people you're working with at a show or whatever. You just don't want to be connected. You're just finding a way to make it matter. You know, it's back to that fan engagement formula. So I would, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I'd have said, okay, look, even if you do a fantasy game, which is probably just a loophole to avoid betting licenses and gambling licenses and stuff like that, you should still try and make it pay to play fantasy, like has kind of happened in the US. But then you're back into the legislation and the gambling laws again, and the geographic restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So look, I still think the sport benefits greatly from having betting in it. I think that should be solved, but I think we can, having experienced it myself, a good game, and it doesn't have to have any money attached to it. It just has to have, again, that dopamine hit, that addiction of prediction, and I think the layers. Like, I've been blown away with how a child who knew nothing about a sport is now like just knows so much about all the players and all the performances, all the performance statistics, because that's how you learn, and that's how you understand it, and that's how you appreciate who's good. You know, he knows Haaland is the best striker in the league because of how many goals they've scored, and that's when we were saying with our content is keep this simple. I mean, how many 5-star 160 clears has King Edward produced? Let's just put that, because that's a big number. And you watch any rider in the world who jumps a 5-star 160 clear round, and you look at the emotion on their face, it matters. It is hard to do, and it matters. So just start quantifying that simple stuff, and then let people get in on the action, and let people, have their say on whether someone's going to produce that clear or not.
The risk of not doing it, or of being slow to do it. I'm going to take a personal to you example, because I can see it happening already. You didn't actually love football that much. You liked it, but you're a Chelsea fan.
Oh, I wouldn't have said I even liked it.
Yeah, well, you engaged with it.
Yes, I engaged with it.
You engaged with it.
Lightly.
But if I walk into your house, we're surrounded by memorabilia of eventing competitions from, Kentucky 1978 and your dad, through to your sisters, through to all of these badminton, Burley pictures, world championship pictures, world medalists. We're in the heartland here of, an equestrian, a storied equestrian family. And yet, your relationship with the boys is all about the weekend's football now. If we don't engage with children and with the up and coming group of fans, because we saw it. You remember that in Gothenburg? You remember seeing the excitement of all of the kids that were in the stadium, particularly those Thursday and Friday. Saturday and Sunday shows, you see less of them because tickets are expensive. But some of the earlier classes, I mean, there was loads of kids there, and I'll never forget, like, "Hey Petronella, hey Henrik, hey Peter," these shouts going around the arena in Gothenburg from kids who were literally, we commented on it, literally shaken with excitement as some of these moments emerged. Now, we felt the excitement when the top-rated horse in the world, being ridden by the world number one, walked into Scandinavium in Gothenburg for their last time to jump in this particular famous stadium before they would go on to try and become an Olympic champion. There was a moment for all sports fans to capture in this ring entrance, or for the moment he jumped clear in round 1 and went to the jump off. There was moments. But the children, watching the children, they didn't need that. It was actually the excitement of the personality and the amazement with it all. If we don't have a way, you're seeing it with your kids now. I think you would probably love to have had that relationship through equestrian sport. If there was a way to engage, even at a simple level, to get them to feel that's Oliver Townend, that's Peter Fredriksson, that's Henrik von Eckermann. You know, if there was a way that your kids knew those names for any reason, I presume that would have been preferable, or that would have been what you would have taken ahead of Haaland and Salah and the rest.
Yeah, 100%. And it's to be able to, it's to go from that one-off, your home show that you watch as an experience. And, I think the kids in Sweden, again, because that Swedish team are doing so well at championships and winning medals, they know, those riders are household names because they've won a championship medal and they're now turning up at a big show, and they'll be good at doing interviews, and Henrik does give great interviews and training videos and stuff like that. So that's kind of how they're consuming. But I don't think those kids will have really engaged with the League of Nations in Ocala on the other side of the world that took place a couple of weeks later, or even the Dutch Masters in 's-Hertogenbosch, the Rolex Grand Slam that took place 1 or 2 weeks later, where King Edward was second again, two weeks later. Not fully engaged with it, not in the same way that I know my 9-year-old child now knows how much is riding on this weekend's fixtures in the Premier League, and I'm now in on that. And actually it is interesting, as in, you can't, all of these sports do well, but that's what we're competing against. There are so many interesting stories there. You just got to tell them. You just got to find the angles, who are the emerging superstars, and who's got to do it. So it's easily done. And you're right, it'll take me from being, because we're a limited amount of time, we can't follow everything. So if I'm spending a Sunday afternoon for 3 hours really immersed in Premier League soccer, that's less opportunity to actually, tune into what's going on in the world of show jumping.
Who should do it? Whose responsibility is it? Who should back it? Is it a federation level? Is it show level?
Oh, there's a commercial opportunity there, so it's an open market from that point of view. But everyone needs to cooperate on it. I think, I definitely think that the sport, how governing the sport and where it will take the sport in terms of, what commercial rights and broadcast rights, that's the other thing. The amount of people who participate in equestrian sports versus the amount of people who spectate on equestrian sports, that ratio is way off compared to other sports. Loads of people don't play soccer on a weekly basis. They don't go and play a five-a-side or play, a Sunday league or whatever like that, but they'll watch it. We're the other way around. We're all off actually participating and being active in equestrian sports, but we're not watching it because we can't follow it. So there's a huge opportunity there for the sports, because that brings value, and again, that next generation, that's the big thing we need. Are we, and how a sport disappears and comes under threat. In ours, we have this obvious thing of social license, which is, kind of the buzzword in the sport right now. I'd be much more worried about the threat of social silence, of people just not engaging with us and not following and not knowing what's going on. I think we got to tell that positive story and allow people to be able to follow it. So from a governance level to a show level, how we talk about the show, how we promote our show. It's a sporting event, how we promote our event. You think how other sports are promoted, it's all about the clash. It's all about why this matters. Whether that's single battles, whether it's Nadal versus Federer, you know, or it's portrayed in some kind of way, who's going for their record Grand Slam, who's got the better record on clay versus turf. We're always promoting sport. We're always promoting the story around the essence of that sport, which is who wins, because it's sport, it's competitive. And so I think that's how we need to promote the shows. Whereas we're who wins? Who, you know, why is Dublin going to matter this year, you know, from a performance point of view? Why is, you know, the
context? So who wins and context?
Yeah.
What I mean by that is we've found ourselves in different situations in the last couple of years where we're telling people, here's how you line up the top 10 in a competition in terms of who wins. Here's the ratings. Here's the predicted win chance. And at times there is a slowness to know how to, you know, for a show to say, do we want to be the people to put that out? Or for a federation to say, do we want to be the people to put that out? We've seen that. What do you think is the risk of not doing it? Is that what we're currently seeing? Is that what you mean by social silence?
Yeah, I think so. You just, we're, like it's the sports are under pressure, you know, like, I mean, certainly in eventing, we're losing venues, not gaining them, you know, we're our model, the structure of our sport, and the, you know, if you were to, and I'm going to generalize, but if you were to look at horse racing, it's very betting driven. So any kind of betting issues affect it. And that's where I'm saying that's the you could look at horse racing and go, oh, that's a reason not to bet. No, because, you know, football and, I mean, so many other sports, golf, tennis, they all manage it, you know, the balance much better. We are just reliant, we're a private game, we're a private club, you know, where a small proportion of the industry in terms of horse prices, in terms of sponsorships, in terms of, there's a lot of money comes from a small amount of people to put on these big shows, and that's where the prize, you know, from a financial model point of view. But at the opposite end of the scale, we do, as I say, we have tens to hundreds of millions of people riding horses on a much lower level. We just don't have the middle thing. We don't have the TV rights. We don't have, I think the traditional shows, I think there are probably half of the 5-star shows out there really selling out and doing well on ticket sales, and doing okay with commercial sponsorships. But got to work at it. You know, commercial sponsors now, they want data. They want, give me your fan engagement. If I'm gonna put my banner all around the stadium, or I'm gonna buy some advertising to put on the live stream, or to put on the big screen, to put on the jumbotron, I need to see that this is reaching people. So that's like, we're gonna struggle. Like, and already that's tough going. Like, our sport is finding it hard commercially to exist, and we're only going to find it harder because the other sports, they're there with the understand and appreciate performance, because here's all our information on how our sport works and who's great at it. Now we're telling the stories about the individuals. Now we're on Netflix,
and they've got other people like Netflix wanting to tell their story as well,
because you can, it's chicken and egg. You can tell a great story and go, okay, that looks interesting. Now I'm going to try and follow that person. How do I follow this sport? You know, what series are they doing? Where are they going?
Give me that formula again.
The fan engagement formula?
Yeah.
Great spectacle. Strong why this sport matters to the athletes as a sport. Engaging people, saying engaging things. Relentless content. I put that under. You have to talk about your sport. You have to be talking about it, and it does have to be relentless. That's the world we live in. It is hard to compete if you're just sporadic. Got to have relentless content and engaging content, and then make it matter to the fan. That's the last. Find a way to now, you know, because people, what I would say is from a fan engagement point of view, 1, 2, 3, I'm interested. I find that sport really interesting, and I'm kind of engaged.
A good spectacle. You understand what it is,
yeah, and why it matters,
and you're getting that content coming to you regularly,
exactly,
in different formats, at different times.
Yeah, it's accessible insights and things like that. Going, okay, I can follow this. I'm now really interested in this sport. I would say I'm an interested fan. When you make it matter to me, and I'm now in that stadium, delighted when somebody wins, and kind of quietly relieved when somebody else loses, because it meant that my person could win. Now I am fully emotionally invested. And that's engagement. Now I'm really cheering.
And that's your 4 parts.
That's your 4 parts.